Welcome everyone to our weekly Torah learning class of spreading light into this world. We always like to start off with giving because how we give, that's how Hashem will give to us. Let's give generously so Hashem will give us generously. I'm going to put some coins in the tzedakah box. Please join me from home. We're going to start off with some names of Tehillim, and we're including everyone. Refuah Shalema for Chana Yenta Rivka Bas Shemdo, Chana Bela Bas Devora, Yosef ben Devora Leah, Yosef Yitzchak ben Bela, Razel Bas Adas, Chana Leah Sarah Bat Pesha Gittel, Rafal Chai Meir ben Sima Chasha, Yosef Shlomo ben Risha, Devora Leah Bas Yafaliba, Esther Bela Bas Yehudis, Chana, Mercedes ben Esther, and for Esther Rachel Bas Chaya and Chaya Mushka Bas Neta. She's a new mother and she needs miracles, so please have her in mind. We're going to say some Tehillim for all of our hostages to come home immediately and for the protection of our RDF. We have one soldier, and we're including everyone into, I have two soldiers that I know, two Chayalim, that are, one of them has a newborn at home. I'm in touch with his wife, and she asked us to all pray for her husband to come home, and he should be safe. And all the Chayalim, Naftali, Zinyor, Ben, Gita, Glika, he should be safe and well, and just really take care of what he needs to do and bring Mashiach. And these Chayalim are literally tzaddikim, and we are going to win this war, but we are, I'm just going to say the name again. It's Naftali Zamir ben Gila Glika. Just want to make sure I said it right. And Raphael ben Devorah Leah, my cousin's son. So we're going to say Psalm 20 together and Kapitel Chaf for these amazing ambassadors of Hashem, and you should protect them and all of Am Yisrael. Lam Natseach Mizmar LeDavid Yancha Adonai Biyam Tzara. Yisagevcha Shem Elehei Akai V'Yishlach Ezracha Mikaidesh. Umitzian Yisadecha Yiskar Kol Min Chaysecha V'Elascha Yidash Nasela. Yitein Lacha Chilvavecha V'Chol Atzascha Yimalei. Neranana B'Shuasecha V'Shem Eloheinu Nidgal Yimalei Adonai Kol Mishal Esecha. Ata Yedaiti Ki Yoshia Adonai Mishecha Yanehu Mishmei Kachai B'Vorei Seishai Yiminai. Ela V'Recha V'Ela V'Asusim V'Anachnu B'Shem Adonai Eloheinu Nasker. Hema Karu V'Nafalu V'Anachnu Kamnu B'Nisaydad. Adonai Hashia Melech Yanenu B'Yan Karenu. Hashem should hear our prayers. And as the Tzemach Tzedek said, if we only knew the power of Tehillim, we would say it day and night. I do these classes weekly in memory of my dear grandmother, Rivka Dina Bas Yosef Yehuda. I hope you're proud. My great uncle, Chaim Dober ben Betzalo. To save a life is saving a world. He saved many in the Soviet Union. His name was Chaim Dov ben Betzalo, and he was known as Chaim Barabolshansky. And for my grandmother, Bela Bas Betzalo. May we see them with the coming of Mashiach and all of our loved ones. So we're now going to pull up a video, a short video of the Rebbe, sharing, like we're going to talk a little bit about current events. It says that in the times of doubt, in the time we should go to Parsha, which is literally our maps, and Google Maps for life is the daily Torah portion, and we see whatever's talking about then really applies to now. So we're going to hear a couple of words from the Rebbe. No, the other one. Give us a moment while we pull it up.
Like your muscles. That is the statement that you are running.
I'm running for controller of the city now, yes.
I'm going to just share a couple of words before we share the next one, okay? With that video. We all have our mission. We all have our calling in life. One of us is a president, some senators, some Congress, some in government, some are teachers, some are lawyers, some are rabbis. We all have a mission, and we ask God to bless everyone when someone is in a position of leading a country. It's in our best interest for the citizens to pray to God that that we bless the figure of our country. We give blessings to our new president. He should be successful. He should know he is an ambassador of Hashem, of God, and he should really help bring back our hostages immediately and be there for all of us and be an amazing president of, that's who Hashem chose. So we're going to hear a few words of the Rebbe right now, which is so incredible. But we really have a mission, and we have to use our mission. We're all part of the big puzzle and all part of the picture. And each person that has a job, if you're a teacher, if you are a custodian, if you are a marketer, if you are a lawyer, if you are a doctor, it all is important in the picture. We all are adding to the world. So now we're going to hear some words of the Rebbe.
Was bei der Pchire muss ein Arib. Und demut sagt mir eine Sache, Ravim Lehatis. I das Haus bei Medwarim Amurim, als bleibt der Pluribus der Riboi, jedem Gemar Pchires. Die Medine ist auch eingestellt auf Pchires. Was bei der Pchire muss ein Arib. Demut sagt mir eine Sache, Ravim Lehatis. I das Haus bei Medwarim Amurim, als bleibt der Pluribus der Riboi, jedem Gemar Pchires. Aber die ganze Kavone von den Rabbim ist, aber man soll machen von den Rabbim alle die Pchires. Ich sage das, als Liachre sei es Hakel Medim Bey, und da soll werden die Meinung, a viele Echet von dem Miut, a viele als halt lebe von Kach, aber ist mit Watte, wie bald das nicht a Henya Nikri, a Henya, was toll im Pchires Odo. Und der Pchir hat machlich gewesen, bei von Kach, wird das Echet sein der. Und all der ich sehe Echet, bei mir gehen, Kivon, mit der Meile gemacht, Apfel, Pivos, ist der Klim geworden, alle die Rabbi. Und sie da mit, was sie gewöhnt, Negde, in das Haus der Chilek von Neged und Bejad, lief ne Abschieds. Aber Leachre, was ist der Klim, wird der Dämmelt vorstehen, von Echet, von dem Mild, und nicht nur Echet bederich Toffel, nor Bishove Mamash, worum das wird mit sie.
Wow. So we're giving blessings to our president that he should do the will of God and he should really be there for all of us. And we will together vote in very soon the coming of Mashiach, because that's what we really want and what we need to happen. So now I'm going to introduce to you our incredible guest speaker that we have with us tonight. I wasn't sure, it was sometimes, man plans and then God decides. And we had a different speaker on call and it didn't work out. I was in touch with my Mashpia mentor, recommend everyone to have a Mashpia mentor, Chany Jacobson, for this class, which we're so lucky to have. And she recommended, I wanted a Lecha story, someone going out of their comfort zone or journey or coming to Judaism or, coming back to Judaism or going out to get people to come closer to Judaism. And she recommended Chany Kamenski. She's a Shlucha in Dnipro, Ukraine. And it is the city of our Rebbe and where he grew up. She's very humbled and honored that she got to be sent out by our Rebbe. He sent her out. She looks much younger than she is, but she had the privilege of going out when the Rebbe was still with us in a physical body. And till today, she feels the Rebbe's presence with her, but she literally left her home to go all the way to Russia, to a communist country, and she's going to talk about it. It was before the Iron Curtain broke. Our we had many classes on our, we were honored to have many speakers who went through, either they went through the Soviet Union or their families went through the Soviet Union. But we did a whole Soviet Union story series, but today we have someone that actually was living in communist Russia, and she was directed by the Rebbe, and she's going to share her journey with us of going out of her comfort zone. And she really feels like this is her home and this is her mission. And she's really living her mission to the fullest. And I'm humbled and honored. When I called her, it turned out she was actually in America, and took a little convincing, but we made it happen. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And thank God I know her sisters, her amazing sisters, and they all were rooting for me. You should do it. So I was thankful to them that they got Chany to say yes. And I'm humbled because I heard some of the stories, and I'm excited for you to hear her share her journey. So welcome, Chany. Chana, that's your name. After, you have the same name as Rebbetzin Chana, and you will share some words of that too. That's where she lived, and where you are now. And we're honored and humbled that you're here with us. If you could unmute yourself and tell us about your journey. And I know you had many journeys. So she's going to start off when she was little, and she's going to share with us journeys of the Rebbe. And if anyone has any questions, they could send it to me directly, and we'll address it at the very end. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege and an honor to speak tonight. My journey began actually when I was born in Milan, Italy. My parents were sent on Shluchas there, then to New York, then to New Jersey. At the age of 9, tender age of 9, I went to school in New York in Beis Rivka, as there was no school other than co-ed where we lived. I lived with my grandparents, and they were very close with the Rebbe and Rebbetzin. It wasn't easy at all. It was really sad and difficult. Every Motzei Shabbos, when my parents came to be with the Rebbe at 770, when they left, and I was again going to school in New York. My grandparents were Reb Yankel and Tybal Lipsker from the former Soviet Union, which whoever dreamed we'd get back there. Tybal Lipsker cooked for the Rebbe when he came to Paris to pick up his mother, Rebbetzin Chana, who I'm named after. When asked to be paid, she refused. And after a while of thinking what the Rebbe can give, because he refused to eat anyone else's food, she agreed to have some old manuscripts of the previous Rebbe, his father-in-law. She washed the Rebbe's tablecloths, which I never even realized living in her house, where she said, don't touch those tablecloths don't touch those things on the ironing board. She would wash them, hang them. She was an old lady. She couldn't already hold them, but she wouldn't give anyone to do that. And even when she was sitting Shiva and there was no one to wash her tablecloths, she asked, I think it was Rabbi Lipsker from Florida even, to buy a tablecloth for that week so that the Rebbe had a beautiful, clean tablecloth for bringing. She also shined the tarnished crowns of the Sifrei Torah in 770. My grandfather was the head gabbai of 770, giving everyone aliyahs and taking care of the lockers and the shul. And he built the Aron Kodesh, the ark where all the Torahs are, as well as other furniture of the Rebbe shown and seen. Different videos. If you ever watch a video of the Rebbe, you can see the tables that he's sitting at, and different pieces of furniture in his home. If you come President Street, you can see that. My grandfather also spoke to the Rebbetzin a few times a week, and I lived with them, so I didn't really notice that, but I know that now. Going to shul at 770, being Efa bring-ins, getting dollars, receiving dollars was my life and first priority. Visiting and feeding the elderly with my grandmother was an integral part of my upbringing. That was my homework after school hours. I visited with the Rebbetzin Chaya Mushka, a few times. My mother told me about visiting when I was a little girl. We came through the front door, and she had some crystal things and some, like a little chicken made out of china. And when I touched it, my mother's like, don't touch, in Yiddish. And the Rebbetzin said, leave her alone, don't worry. My mother was almost falling through the floor thinking I'm going to break it. I didn't anyway. Then when I grew up, at my Bubby's house, my grandmother's house, my mother asked me to go with my cousin, Hindi Lipsker. We went to the Rebbetzin, and when we came to the door, we knocked at the back door, and somebody peeked in the back window and said, who is that? And I said, I speak Yiddish. So the Rebbetzin said in Yiddish, who is that? And I said, it's Chany Lipsker. She said, can you please come back in half an hour? I came home, told my mother. She was absolutely horrified, saying, you don't say these things to the Rebbetzin, so please be careful. What, just better be quiet. And we came back in half an hour, came inside the back. She let us in. She was wearing, as far as I remember, something green, right? I also like the color green. So I guess that, I think she was wearing green with some green like necklace and something on her sheitel also matching. And she wasn't very tall. So it made us feel comfortable when we were little. And she asked how my cousin was feeling because he was after an operation, which was Hindi's brother. And then she said, how was school? So I told her I didn't really enjoy school. And she said, that's okay. You will grow up to be a good Hasidic girl and give nachas to the Rebbe and myself. And then she took out candies and gave us each a candy. And of course, what do you do with the candy from the Rebbe? You don't eat it, you put it in your pocket. And she said, please take it out and make a bracha. So of course we had to take it out, make a bracha. And then she showed us the garbage can because we were going to take home the wrappers. She did that again. And again, we did the same thing and put the second candy in the garbage, the second wrapper in the garbage can. A different time I came with my brother and we gave her a plant and she said it was so beautiful. She wanted to plant it in her backyard, which she did, which never grew. I don't think it did. But the fact that she said it was so beautiful made us feel like, wow. And she was really just very kind, and you didn't feel like she was something that you should be afraid of. You'd just be very happy to tell her the whole truth. Like I've been there a bit longer, I would have told her even more than my mother would have, wanted me to say. During my 12th year of school at Meis Rivka, an extremely incredible opportunity to go on Shluchas to Australia came up, and of course, I'm ready to go. And of course, my parents are from, Shluchas, the Rebbe, we're going. So I went to Sydney, Australia, where I was a teacher, teaching all different. We were very young, but that's what you do on Shluchas. And when we bring the girls out, we expect them to do also teaching. So we did that. After a year of being in Sydney, I got an answer from the Rebbe on Hate Tavis, which is the day the books, actually, it was the news of the books that are coming back from Russia, that I should go to learn in Melbourne. And I did that for another year. Then I came back, was a secretary in Beis Rivka, and I met my husband from Israel. And of course, we joke around and say we did a compromise, not Israel, not America. So where did we end up? Going to a hand-picked by the Rebbe from a list of people, young couples, going to where our ancestors came from, which was, wow, incredible. And who thought we would stay there till now? We thought we'd be there just a little while, as my parents were in Milan, Italy. So maybe we'd be there also for 3, maybe 4 years. Okay. As hard as it is, I was always thinking, okay, we're coming back. The first year we didn't give away our apartment. We kept it. And we were on our way to Yekaterinslav, which is today Dnipro. After the war broke out between Ukraine and Russia, it turned into Dnipro. Before it was Dnipropetrovsk, which planes and trains, people that were flying could not even pronounce the name. They would just say DNK or something else. This was 1990, where I think in 1990 the coup happened. But in 1990, we were going to leave, and it was before Tisha B'Av. It was the 17th of Tammuz, which is the fast before Tisha B'Av, and it was on a Tuesday. Now, if you understand, when we leave on Tuesday, we all know you get to Europe on a Wednesday. But if we get to Moscow and there's no direct flights, then we have to leave Wednesday night by train and get there only on a Thursday. And you wouldn't want in communism to get anywhere on Friday or Shabbos. So we wrote to the Rebbe that if we don't go Tuesday, which is a fast day, we'll have to wait another week. We were so excited. We didn't want to wait another week. Imagine, like today I would think, okay, another week in America. Why not? And the Rebbe gave us a bracha. And at that time, we didn't have children yet. We were married for about a year and a bit. And the Rebbe said that if you have in Yiddish, in Hebrew, if you have a mikvah near where you are, you should go in a good hour, and you should be successful. And I'll remind you at my father-in-law's gravesite, and you should give good news. At that time, I found out we found out we're pregnant. So my husband like jokingly says, okay, who needs shluchas? We're having a baby now. We're staying here. I mean, where are we going? We can't even speak the language. You don't know any doctors. What's going to be? We were all nervous about that. But of course, shluchas is shluchas, and we were on our way. When we got to Moscow, we went to another country, which is what we do now also. Let's say another country in Europe. I think it was Finland. Then we got to Moscow. We went to Rabbi and Rebbe Korovsky's house. I think they're quite old. Recently, I called to say thank you for then. I don't know if he even remembers me. They put food on our table and we were told, do not throw anything out. These people are poor. The food was, I'm not even going to begin to tell you. There was no water. There was something like peroxide that I drank. And I literally, like, I can't even tell you what happened. And we called our parents saying everything's okay. And then we had to get onto, actually in the airport, it was a little scary. My husband has a beard and they said that, Jewish people, it's scary. It's Russia, Soviet Union. So I put him on one line. I went on the other line with the boxes. Of course, by the time the boxes came out in our suitcases, things were missing from in there. And they would look you up and down. And it was a little scary, must say. But of course, we're on the Rebbe Shluchas, so nothing's going to happen to us, right? And then we took a train that evening for 20 hours. It must have been 100 degrees. Windows don't open. You can't bribe anyone. We don't talk the language. All we said was, can we drink some water? And they didn't know what we're talking about. I'm like, take your clothes off. It's not helping you. And they just said like something like chai vasimutra or chai shestutra, tea, 6 a.m. But we didn't understand what they were saying. 6 o'clock in the morning when we arrived at Dnipro, and they, like an hour before, they're giving us something to drink, but it's like the glass and it's not so clean and we don't know, what it's about. So we didn't drink. And, how much can you eat, not drink? You're not bringing water from America. No one told us about that. So I had like my mother's cookies and that's what we ate the whole way. By the time I got off that train, I almost fell out thinking, never again am I going back this way to America. And guess what? 33 years down the line, back in a train when war broke out to go to America. But that we'll talk about in a few minutes. When we came to Dnipro and I was pregnant, I needed a bathroom and I paid for the bathroom with some coin waiting online. Come to the end of the line and I really needed the bathroom and there was no toilet. I had no idea what a hole in the ground meant. For me, that was a catastrophe, but what should I do? And that does happen today too, even though now they have better toilets and in wartime, they actually, all the way with all the posts where you have to stop, they have bathrooms, but that was when we got there, no toilet paper, something like, felt like newspaper, maybe brown, like whatever, nothing really exciting, but what should I do? I mean, I couldn't even tell anyone about that besides for my husband. By the way, the first day when we were walking from the hotel that we went into, which had cockroaches coming out of my fridge, and it was one room. I took off the TV, put a plug-in electric something to put my frying pan on, which I cooked potatoes, cooked beets, cooked onions, potato cooked beets. That's basically what we ate for the first few months. When we went to shul that first day and they elected my husband as a rabbi because there were so many years that there was no rabbi, on the way home, I actually cried. And I said, if I don't have any friends, if I have no one to talk to, you're going to have to be my friend. I mean, are you ready to do that? Because I have no other choice. And of course, that was the beginning. That was a little sad for a few minutes, but then, that passed. That first Shabbos, we were together with many people. There were Bachrim, there were boys that actually arranged their Shabbos and miracles happened. There was no hot water in the hotel. So they brought us up like a basin with water, an electric tea kettle, told us that we have to heat the water, mix it in the basin and kind of pour it over our heads. And that's our shower. And that Shabbos, there were, I don't know, there must have been Friday. We came on Thursday, like I told you. Friday, there were at least 100 people. We couldn't speak the language. I had my candlesticks with me. I put them down on the table and I covered my eyes thinking, I hope no one looks at me because this is kind of, I don't even know where I am, what I am. But the food there was actually kosher. Why? Because the Russians they always have spare dishes. They put it through the dishwashers, but because there was no hot water, it never got hot. So they went through cold, freezing dishwasher, which makes everything kosher. They went to the market, bought a fish, exchanged it for some lipstick. So everyone had a little piece of fish. And some people actually do remember being there that first Shabbos, which is 35 years ago. I hardly remember, but that was an interesting time. Then we started a day camp. What we did in day camp was I kind of yelled out Torah and everyone would follow me, Tziva, Tziva, and then they would get their candies. And that was our first day camp, like 2 weeks after we came. Then in 1990, the coup happened. I don't know if you remember, but communism was falling apart. And we wrote a letter to the Rebbe that we're really worried. People were worried there would be pogroms. They said to hide. They were nervous that there would be shooting. And the Rebbe gave us a blessing not to leave and we should stay. And Baruch Hashem, everything worked out just fine. There was a woman who asked my husband, an elderly woman who asked my husband to come out of the city because her mother, who was like 90 years old, was really old, heard that he came from America and wanted to talk to him. And my husband went by himself because he was worried. The roads were so bad. He was worried about my health being pregnant. So he didn't take me with him. And she called him in a room and she closed the door. She cried and cried and then said, my entire family thinks they're non-Jews. I am Jewish. She spoke to him in Yiddish, told him where she was born, who she knows. She probably even knew the Rebbe's parents, and said that she's going to die. And when she dies, she would like him to tell the family that she actually was Jewish. And this helped. I mean, this is like a crazy story, but it did help them leave the country, as at that time in the 1990s, as you all know, many people made Aliyah, went to Israel, because it was the fall of communism. They were allowed to leave. There were lines every Sunday in shul for people that want to leave. Some actually swallowed their like gold and silver so that they can take it out of the country. You weren't allowed to leave with anything. We were at the train station twice a week saying goodbye to people. We just met someone, they left. So we thought, okay, people are leaving. We're also going to end up leaving in a few years and we won't be staying. Well, we're still there. So we hope that that comes soon. We have peace and everybody is all together. There was no kosher food. Yonah sent us 30 bottles of long life milk, Meiz Neshama Havanaliyah. And we thought, pregnant people need to have calcium. So we kept those in that fridge with the cockroaches, like I told you. My husband learned shchita before he left. When we bought the one chicken from the bazaar, which is the marketplace, by the time my husband shechted, I plucked the feathers, checked the chicken, had a list. I still have the paper that my mother helped me write before I left. I koshered the chicken and it came on the table. We cut it on that little table in my room, like I told you, coffee table. I didn't want to eat it. That was obvious. Once I was back in New York for a visit. I think it was my first visit. And I actually cried my whole visit in New York. People were asking me, why? You're in such a crazy place. Why aren't you so happy that you came back? I said, because my husband's there and I can't live like this and I need to go back. And I was all excited. I went to get a bracha from the Rebbe and he went to the Mikvah on Union Street. I went the first day and the Rebbe didn't come. The next day I came, waited there. There was maybe one or two other people. And the Rebbe gave me a coin and said, safe trip. And then I got a telephone call from Rabbi Klein, who was the Rebbe's secretary, one of the Rebbe's secretaries, telling me that the Rebbe asked him who that was, if that's Kamenski, and does she know that in the wintertime there's no food, and they won't even have potatoes, they won't even have beets. So you need to buy hundreds of kilos of potatoes in sacks and put them underground, which even today the elderly are still doing that, to have food throughout the winter, so that in the freezing cold they won't have to go out, look for or buy expensive potatoes. And imagine the Rebbe actually told us what to do, and that's what we did. And that's how we had food. We had food that winter when the yeshiva opened, and all we had was the round bread called lipyoshkes, and we were eating that with herring and potatoes. Okay, I don't like any of that, but we won't talk about that. We were a little hungry, but we didn't feel, hungry because there was so much to do and so many people to teach and so many people to talk to. So that didn't bother. Now, you would think you would ask about telephone calls. So you and I don't really remember what means not to have phones at all. because in America, we remember rotary phones, or we had those first cell phones, but here we came, we had to go through an operator. We would ask for a phone call. We were one of 14 phone calls with 500,000 people a day to out of the country. And I wanted one. So I would get my phone call once in 4 days, and it came in the middle of the night. So of course we didn't sleep. And then when it came, if my family was busy, or, the house phone was busy, they would wait another 4 days. So you can imagine what I had to tell my mother by the time that phone call came again. And it's hard to imagine, and it's hard to relate, and it's hard to remember, but that's what those were the facts. We didn't have the language. We were looking for translators. We found a translator's name was Sasha Zamansky, and he spoke a very good Hebrew, because at that time he was young, and he was Zionistic, and he was going against the communist regime and secret teaching Hebrew, and he just disappeared. After a few months, my husband found him and says, well, he met him, and he said he's really afraid to talk to us. The KGB found him, called him in, and told him that if he's caught speaking with the American people that are coming, they will not allow him to teach. They know he's teaching Hebrew. They won't allow him to teach, and they're going to put him in jail. So we were left with no translator, and the KGB obviously was after us a long time. We know they were listening to our phones. They were tapped. I think we're still tapped, but yeah, okay. We were tapped. We had got many times. We got papers with actually conversations that my husband had with people actually printed out, which is like, in America, to tap someone, that's a whole new level. Then I told you we came in the summer. It was Rosh Hashanah. Then it was Simchas Torah, and it was then there was Sukkot. And on Sukkot, you need to have a sukkah. I mean, women don't need, but men do. And we lived on a floor where we had a balcony on top. Where were we going to build the sukkah? Where would my husband eat? Where would he drink water? So we went upstairs on the 5th floor. We knocked on the door, and the non-Jews answered. They barely spoke English, and they actually gave us a key to their apartment, allowed us to come in, build something on their porch, and allowed us to bring in guests while they were at work the whole week of Sukkot. After about 20 years, I came back and saying to them, why did you let us in? What are you to us? You don't even know who we are. And they were also told that we're dangerous people. Oh, I forgot to tell you about the KGB, what they told him. He asked, why can't I speak to the people? And he said, the KGB told him that these are dangerous people. So he's like, why are they dangerous? Because they're not afraid of anyone. And so these people were also told not to talk to us, but they gave us our apartment, which we were very grateful for. And I would like to go back there and see if maybe they sold their apartment already, but to even give them a gift or invite them or thank them for what they've done for us, because they've helped bring these miracles happen, and be able to have people the first year that we were there, just a few months later, be able to see what a sukkah is. We had one in Shul too. It was a little, with that, whatever, fold up sukkah or whatever. But Baruch Hashem, from day one, people were doing things. There was never a dull moment, from the first Shabbos, from the first minute, and throughout. People really were thirsting for Yiddishkeit. The elderly were very happy for Judaism. The elderly were really happy talking in Yiddish, and thank God I spoke Yiddish. Otherwise, how would I even talk the first few weeks that we were there? We were looking, many people came to look for relatives of the Rebbe, because if the Rebbe he was born in Nikolaev, and then he lived in Yekaterinoslav, where we lived, so surely there must have been documents or something. And we found out there was one family, Schneerson, actually, and they still have relatives living in Dnipro Petrovsk. The grandparents are gone. We've visited with them. And then there was a woman, her name was Tanya Edelstein. My brother came to visit us. My brother and I went to visit her, and she peeked out of her door. She was like 80 years old. And there was a chain, those chains that don't let you open the door. She said, go away. This is fascism. You're going to be shot. Don't come into my house. Leave back to where you came from. And we convinced her and came into her house. And she told us about her life, and that her mother was a first cousin to Chana, Rebbetzin Chana. She didn't say Rebbetzin. She said Chana and Levin, that they lived on Mironova in a street in Dnipro, and that they would go visit. She would go with her mother to visit her first cousin. Their last name was Yanovsky, and her mother, and Chana. And whenever they would go, Levick would always say hello. They had a library, secular and Jewish library in their home. And then time passed, and I'm sure you know the story. Some of you might, some of you not. But Chana had to make the choice of when her husband was arrested and sent to Kazakhstan. He was in jail in Dnipro, where we live. He was there tortured, and he was in one place in the KGB. Then he went to a different jail, and then he was sent to Chile, Kazakhstan. And then she had to make the choice of either staying in the city with her son, another son. The Rebbe they had 3 sons, not the Rebbe because he left, or to go to her husband. And he was very ill, and she found out, and she went and made the ink and all that. That's a separate story. And she said that her relative disappeared. Then war broke out, and they also had to leave. And they also went to Kazakhstan, but they had no clue where the Rebbe was. Then, when the war was over and it was time to go back, the day before she left, she sees Chana in the street. She's like, Chana, what are you doing here? And Chana says, what are you doing here? She says, well, the war's over, and I'm going to go back to Dnipro, to Yekaterinslav, to see what's left of it. Was it bombed? Do I have relatives? I don't have my husband here. I have to find him. And then she said to Chana, and Chana gave her a blessing. And then she said, what are you doing? And she said that fortunately, she said, I had to bury my husband here when he was released from prison and from his Silka from Chile. He got very ill. He fell ill and he passed away. And I had to bury my husband here. And now she said, she was like saying secretly, she might end up leaving. And here we are saying to this woman, she left. She met her son, the Rebbe, and he sent us here. She cannot believe what she was hearing. Every year, the 6th of Tishrei, which is Rebbe Chana's yahrzeit, I said the story because that's the only story I can say for the people in Dnipro that has something to do with somebody there. And I mean, there are many stories of Rebbe Chana, but that was something special. And one year, a girl came over to me, a young girl, and she said, my parents told me never to say that I'm related, never to go to shul, and not to be Jewish. And this is already way past 1990. And I thought that was amazing that she came over to me. I told her I won't tell anyone. She slowly became closer to Judaism. She actually got married. It was a chuppah where I felt that the Rebbe Chana and Rebbe Levick were actually at the wedding, and the Rebbe was actually at the wedding. And she put on a head covering. Her parents and grandparents had no clue. It was very similar to her hair. Now they know. They're from. They keep Shabbos. They keep kashrus, and they keep Taras Mishpacha. And I think they have 5 or 6 daughters. They did have to leave during the war, and now they are spreading the light of the Rebbe city in another place in the world with their family. When it was time to open a Jewish school, we wanted to open a Jewish school, and Israel was part of it. We have teachers from Israel until today, even during the war, and we came to the Ministry of Education, who said, you will not open a school until hair grows on my palm. He was laughing at us. They threw us out. And then my husband said, no, anti-Semitism sounds amazing, but this is not going to work. And we need to open a school. And we will get a bracha from the Rebbe to open a school. And we did get a bracha. And he found another way of dealing with this, became friends with different people, and they allowed us to open a school, which is open till today. We have a separate boys' school, a separate girls' school, and a co-ed school for boys and girls in our city. And even though it was closed in the beginning of the war, right now, with a bomb shelter, is that what you call it? Bomba ubejishi. And they go down every time there's a siren. They learn in school, and they hide, then they go back up, then they go back down. I mean, it's not really, okay, whatever. We should never need bomb shelters, and no bomb should fall in our school. But we do our kindergarten, our school, it's all open and working. I wanted to touch upon a topic which is also very important, and that is Mikvah. There's a very interesting story of a woman who we were in Israel, and she said, I want a chuppah today. I want a wedding. And you can imagine a wedding in Israel. I mean, we're by the Western Wall. She's like, I feel so holy. I want to have a chuppah today. So you're thinking, okay, a chuppah today. I mean, she has no clue that a chuppah means a little bit of studying, maybe a little bit of preparation, maybe a pretty dress, or she's like, right now, I feel like I need it. My husband's Jewish. I'm Jewish. My parents are Jewish. So we kind of convinced her to do it a different time. She wouldn't do it when we wanted to, but she wanted it for New Year's. So we got her ready. She did all the preparations. She did everything right. She had to go to the mikvah on a Friday night. That's what happened. Didn't work out exactly the day of the wedding. I think it was Thursday. Friday night, we invited her to her house. She was with no makeup. She had a son who was 17 at the time, and she could not get pregnant after this child was born. She tried all 17 years and it didn't work. We walked, myself and her, and she and I walked to the mikvah, which was like, I don't know, a 20-minute walk. She went to the mikvah, didn't put on makeup, coming to a table full of people in our home. And we had a Shabbos meal. 9 months later, she had twins. And then she got pregnant with another child and said, this must be a blessing from the Rebbe and from Hashem, and I will give birth also to this child. Her children are looking to be married to Jewish people, and there's something about this whole that keeps them wanting to be Jewish, one of the children once said he's gonna be circumcised. He didn't tell his mother because he knew that she would be very against. But either way, this was a very special story. And they all had, like, they cut their hair at 3, and they had a bar and bat mitzvah, and they feel very close to the community. They don't keep everything, but they surely come on Yom Kippur, and they're like, how do you say, traditional, and it's very, very special. Something else I want to say, and that is that, you know, for mikvah, there's a special time. There's a time, winter is one time, summer is another time, and we were in trouble. I got a call here to America when I was here. Chany, what do? We need to have women go to the mikvah, and we're afraid as mikvah ladies even to go to the mikvah because our curfew is 5 o'clock. And then they said that we'll never make it home on time from the mikvah. And to make a long story short, 3 times that they called me, the next day they switched the curfew to an hour later. So never was there a time when a woman could not make it to the mikvah. And I'm sure the rabbis would give permission, it's war zone, to go the next day. But everyone went on time in this special city, in this special place. There are open miracles all the time. In our city, we don't have to explain who the Rebbe is. Everyone knows there's a special blessing, and they are in the Rebbe city, and they are proud of it, happy. And I feel I'm inspired by the people. I tell them when they listen to a shir, they ask me to speak, and I'm like, it's not interesting what I'm telling you. You're the ones that are actually inspiring me. And they feel a connection. They thank the Rebbe. They've never seen the Rebbe, but you could think that they actually know him because they are feeling so as if, wow, if he would walk in here, we would be so happy to see him, and his mother and his father. I've also been at Dollars many times, as I told you, and I'd like to show you just a very short segment of the Rebbe speaking to me in Russian. Many times.
So we're now gonna pull up the video. You'll explain it after what the Rebbe says because it's not translated on the video.
Okay, it's a few seconds.
Kamenski portanto aqui tem no plano. Ze horen Henya Yechielov, dat is een van de rol.
Lecha, Kaminezki.
Dat is hier moeten Mrs.Leah Groner samen met hier.
איזה Kaminezki? אבל אם Kaminezki, דוקטור חמור ג'ולת, הקאסוס, גלצים, Lecha,
I'm going back to Brazil today, and I.
Wow. So if you could just translate what the Rebbe said to you.
The Rebbe asked if it's Kamenski because Rabbi Groner said that they're flying to Yekaterinslav, and I said yes, and then he asked my mother, "Are you also going to Yekaterinslav?" And my mother said yes. And he said, I also lived in Yekaterinoslav, and there's a street. We think he said that there's a street that belongs to me. And that's Mironova, where he lived, which is like an incredible bracha. And it wasn't the only time that he gave me a bracha. Once my husband didn't want to come in to bother the Rebbe, and the Rebbe asked in Russian, is he here or is he there? And I said, he's here. And the Rebbe asked me also in Russian, do I understand Russian? And what language do I speak to my husband? We got many very special occasions of actually I would just pass by running for my life, and the Rebbe would call back and say, is that Kamenski? And giving us special blessings. He also told us the first time we went, 2 days before we left, that we should change our money legally. We shouldn't go to the black market. And the tzedakah that he gave us. And that was something also very special. Today we have 3 married children living next to us in Dnipro. They all have children. Baruch Hashem, we're very lucky. 2 married children living here in New York City, and 4 single children with us. When the war broke out, I see it's already 9 o'clock, so I don't really have much time, but I will try to be short. When the war broke out,
you have more time, so we want to hear what you have to say.
We actually didn't believe the war was. People were talking about the war. We didn't believe it. My husband was like, "There's no war." He still says there's no war. Just saying, he's so positive and saying it's finished. And now that we have a new president, he's like, "That's it. It's over. We're starting to fly to Ukraine." So I'm actually inviting all of you. But the first morning, I sent my kids to school, and then we heard like bombs. We're like, this is not for real. And we had to go get our kids from the kindergarten that we sent. I also took a brisk walk. The streets were empty, and I said to my friend, maybe we should like get back home. And my husband decided that he didn't really push me to leave, but he said, you can stay, I'm not going. And we had a granddaughter born that was 5 weeks old, and just it didn't feel right to actually stay because we had no idea what was happening. We were sure Russia's taking over and we will be Russian very soon. So we decided we're going by train to get out, because you understand there are no planes, there's no way out. A relative of ours was getting married, and her daughter was by us, and she's like, I'm taking you home. I said, why don't you believe in Hashem? There will be no war. She took her out, and guess what? She would not make it to the wedding if she wouldn't have gone out, because no skies are closed until today. And we went on a train. The train was, my husband said he's not coming to the train because he doesn't want people to panic and they'll have to leave the country. So we went there, we stood in line. If you would see what this looked like when the train came, people were fighting, breaking the train almost to get inside. People were running for their lives. They wanted to be part of it. They bought tickets, but the tickets didn't work because it's war zone. So you can't even get on. There's no it's just first come, first serve, basically. And it was freezing cold. I forget the details. It was cold. We took 1 suitcase for 3 of us. And usually, you know how we fly. We take 1. If we fly, we can take 2. We can pay more, extra. And we had little food. I shared my food with everyone. And in 1 room, instead of being 4 people, because there are 4 beds in a room, in the fancy rooms, there were between 10 and 16 people in the room, and people trying to open the door. So we didn't go to the bathroom for hours, which is at the end of the car, because we were afraid people would like break into our room and come inside. And my kids and myself were in 2 different rooms. So we didn't see each other. We could talk on our phone, but once the phone died, we wouldn't be able to talk. And we didn't think of power banks. I mean, power banks, seriously, war zone, power banks, not happening. And it was an interesting experience. It was pitch black. We're not used to pitch black. Now we are, because 12 o'clock is curfew and it's dark in the city. You can't see anything. People are walking with phones and lights to see where they're going. And people are calling me, Chana, why is the train stopping? Chana, why are we moving? Chana, what's going on? I'm like, 1 second, I'll talk to Hashem. I'll ask him what's going on. I'll let you know. So no time. My husband was like, no crying, figure it out, smile all the time. I'll see you very soon. And you can imagine it sounds a little weird, but yeah, I did not know when I'm going to see my husband next, because I was leaving war zone and I don't know if I'm going to be able to come back. We were there many hours. Our train must have been 20 hours. And we went to Romania. We came there and we had another 8 hours drive, and people were telling us, do you see, they're taking videos of us. This is real war. This is like when the Jews were persecuted and coming out. You are the same. And my daughter says, my father is a big rabbi and this is not happening. He's going to save it. It was like, a bit not in reality.
She learned Russian.
I see that I'm on low power. I gave him my food. There was on when we came, then we went to Israel. Okay, then we came to New York. I just want to say that when we came finally, after I was in Israel for a little while, I told my husband, I want to go to my family, to my children, as I asked the Eibishter to please maybe give me a sabbatical so I could spend time with my parents. I just want to say, after being in New York for a few months, I said, I don't need my sabbatical anymore. I'm happy to go back to my husband. And after 2.5 months, when I went back and I left my daughter and my son here and my other daughter that went to France, I was very happy to be home. I didn't care about the war. I just wanted to be, I didn't even look at anything in my house. All I wanted to see was my husband after like 2.5, 3 months. In America, we came, it was almost Purim, and we got Shalach Manas, Purim presents. And it was a little sad for me that people are bringing me gifts. That's not what I was used to, but no choice in the matter. And my daughter went to Beis Rivka. They were, I can't even begin to tell you, the classmates of hers, the teachers, they went out of their way. She had the most phenomenal experience here, even though she was, a refugee, put it this way. And she did say, Pesach, Mommy, who am I going to ask the 4 questions to if Tati's not here with us? And of course, I explained to her that many people even don't have fathers, and they say it to their fathers, that because we ask the 4 questions no matter what. I wanted to share a story of someone that called me 2 days ago. His name is Yitzchak Achter. His mother helped us open the kindergarten and the school. And he said that he sold his mother's apartment and he'd like to give us money for something. And he wrote a letter to the Rebbe and he got a very explicit answer. You should give the money that you have as a one-time to either a class or a school that's printing Sidurim. Now, what Hashgacha Pratis, what Divine Providence, in our city, we're printing now in Ukrainian a brand new siddur, and we're looking for sponsors. My daughter was telling me, I don't have anyone to pay for it. And she's thrilled, and we're thrilled that these are like part of the miracles. He's thrilled because he gets to do what the Rebbe said right away, and we're thrilled because we actually need what he's giving us. And this is just some of the things that happen. We take advantage, we take for granted. Hashem tells Abraham in this week's Parsha, I know this is not a Parsha class, you're now not a regular person, you're a Jew, and you're going to go out to the place I will show you. Hashem had a plan for us. He sent us to a place we had no clue where it was. The Rebbe surely showed us where 3.5 million Russian-speaking Jews were not allowed to be Jews. Tens of thousands of Jews were afraid, persecuted, ashamed, changed their identity, and they would say, Oy vey yavrei. They were not happy to be Jewish, because if they were Jewish, they couldn't get jobs, they couldn't get good marks at school, they were made fun of, they were taunted at. And when the Rebbe sent hundreds of shluchim to Ukraine, they actually came to the thirsty Jews for Judaism to be able to start understanding the importance of Jewish continuity. And you have many thousands of people in Ukraine proud to be part of a Jewish community. People are not hiding. As the war happened, more and more people are coming out of the closet, going to the shul, coming to synagogue, coming to pray. This Simchas Torah, I don't know how we weren't afraid, but we weren't. And all the 10 Torahs, we took out the 7th Hakafa and went around the block with the Torahs, dancing and singing, and just proud of who we are, and just doing what we have to do, not being afraid. We have 7,000 elderly that need help, and we have different programs. We have an old age home and a Jewish clinic that gives them physical and mental, moral support. And where the Rebbe's father was arrested from, about 100 feet away, is one of the largest or the largest Jewish community center in the world. It's 600,000 square feet. and it's called Menorah Center. It's a long story, but menorah, its shape is like 7 buildings, and it's actually lights up the world, and it's actually very light and bright, and people are like, oh, you don't need it. People were scared out of the country, don't build it, it's scary, and then the war zone, and don't go near it. But now, what do they say? If the rabbi's in town, if menorah is working, we have nothing to worry about. And this is all the Rebbe's brachas. There's no other way to say it. I want to just tell you all that you're amazing for taking your time. You're all busy, and you listen, you come to share, and you're very inspiring. You have a story to tell, I'm sure. And it's time to tell your host that you can be the speaker at the next lesson. I want to also say that one of the very difficult things, in my opinion, is that shluchas that go out far away and their parents get elder, they grow older, that's really hard, because that's difficult for me. I'd like to spend time with them, which I'm doing right now. My mother actually is on, I think she's on and listening, and leaving home has brought me home. I want to thank Hashem and thank you, the Rebbe, for showing us this special place. Leaving the comfort of our homes, you and I, makes us grow and light the world. And we would like to see the ultimate light, which is the revelation of the coming of Mashiach now. Thank you very much, and have a good year and a happy and healthy winter.
Wow, thank you, Chany. We have some questions that came in. So I know your battery is low, so we're going to ask it before we conclude with our roll call. So you can, in the meantime, write in the chat box where you're from. So you left home at a really early age. How did that feel for you from the age of 9?
It was hard, but in the beginning, I wanted to have, friends. I wrote to the Rebbe about it, and the Rebbe answered me that if I need friends, I need to be in a place where there are girls that I can be friends with. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. And that's why I didn't send my children at 9 years old away. They were home. I homeschooled my kids. I was homeschooled before I went to Beis Rivka. I didn't go to school. I wrote in.
Why didn't you go to school?
There was no school. There was no school besides co-ed.
Okay, and that's not something that you wanted for you. No, because you're such a chassid. Okay, so here goes. So you went away at 9, and then you went on a journey. You went away again when you were 17, correct? Like to
17, yeah.
To Australia, and then you came back and you got married. When did you get married? How old were you?
20.
You were 20, and when did you go out on shluchas? How old were you?
21.
21. So when you could you tell us the process, how you got the shluchas? Like, what was, like, you wrote into the Rebbe that you wanted shluchas, or were you called in? How did that come about?
My husband was in Koil. We were looking for shluchas. We actually checked out another place, and then Ezer Sachem came out with idea of sending, because it was still the Soviet Union. The Rebbe wasn't exactly for sending people and being a danger. The Rebbe used to send things, but it was dangerous. So here was an official time when the Rebbe actually allowed. They sent boys before to check out what was happening, and then couples were allowed to go. So I guess they reported to the Rebbe which places were ready and already checked out to have couples, and the Rebbe circled our name on the list. They came to our house, they spoke to us first, they asked if we want to go, they gave us a whole, we're going to pay you money, blah, 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 which didn't make a difference to me. That's like, when you go out and the boy says, here, look at my dollars, look at my fancy car, look, to me, that was nothing doing, so that didn't matter. The Rebbe says to go out on shluchas, that's what you do, that's what you go, you jump if you have to, you go where you have to, and that's it. And it just happened to be that Ezer Sachem opened up. Now, Rabbi Lazar, my husband, was supposed to go be one of those boys to check out Moscow. And he didn't end up going because we met at that time. But I have a feeling of such divine providence. If he would have gone to Moscow, he would have never, ever gone back on shluchas to the former Soviet Union.
Why do you say that?
Because it was difficult. He would see. He was used to something else. He told me when we went out, my family was, they're all into real estate and business. I'm like, that's really cool. That's good for your family. I'm going on shluchas. And he's like, yeah, of course. If you had a talk with him, I don't think that was 100% that he wanted to go on shluchas. So basically, he had no choice. If he wants to marry me, he has to go on shluchas. So he had no choice. That's why he went on shluchas.
I think he made a good choice. Okay, so how was leaving home How did that bring you home? And how did it make you grow as a person? Would you ever imagine being where you are today if you have not listened to the call of Lecha and got out on Shluchas?
I think that we grow either way, wherever we grow, wherever we are, and whatever we do. We're experience makes us grow, no matter what. And we obviously, I think each one of us and you would never imagine to be where we are today. Either way, it's not something that you can imagine. Most people are having their dream in a picture. That's not exactly what happens when it is. So, and we grow either way. And I think that when we feel that we're giving, we grow. And it can be on any level. It can be just being a listening ear. It can be just being a friend. It can be going out for a walk. It can be helping the elderly. It can be just meeting someone and smiling. Giving is living and growing. And when people, Morris Wordlove met me this week, and she says, I remember 25 years ago when I asked you, how does it feel when you're going back to Ukraine? Are you going home? I said, yeah. She says, I cannot believe what you're saying. And that means that you're really believing in what you're doing. I don't think we're such great, pious people. I just think that home is where we're used to. And this is where I felt comfortable. And this is where, this is where the Rebbe sent me. And I'm very blessed.
And when you bring light to others, ultimately it brings the greatest blessings and light to the one who gives. And that's what you're doing. And it brought light to your life, and you learn to adapt. And like you mentioned, it's flourishing now. When you came, they said there's not going to be a school. And you mentioned there's 3 schools under your umbrella. I mean, under the Rebbe's umbrella, but you're the ambassador to the Rebbe. And you just see the blessings all day. And people are so open and thirsty to connect to their roots. And do you feel like there's anyone still living in the mindset of the Iron Curtain still, like any of the elderly people there?
Absolutely. I think some people still want communism. They were able to, communism was like they gave people a chance to work, and then they gave them like their vacations. Everything was very planned. People felt secure, and now they're insecure. So there are people that wouldn't mind having this sense of security. Well, now it's war zone, but you have people fighting all the time. Many families aren't talking to each other. Ukraine, Russia, it's quite difficult. And we have many shluchim and relatives and friends in Russia and in Ukraine, in the former Soviet Union. So yeah, it's kind of mind-boggling. We went out in one way, we were nervous, then the Iron Curtain went down, and the Rebbe really, really, really had a strong connection with Russian-speaking people. And it's incredible, because when you want to show them a video, the Rebbe actually speaks in Russian. If you remember, you're young, but the Rebbe spoke at a parade with tens of thousands of people in Russian. It's incredible. Who is it for, if not for the Jews behind the Iron Curtain for today? You can't. I mean, what do you call that? That does the translation and does it into Russian? And I don't know. I'm sure you would be able to do it. I forgot what it's called. But this is the Rebbe really speaking in Russian live, and it's incredible.
Wow. In the beginning, can you tell us how it was in the beginning? Money was an issue. Now you have the greatest Jewish center of the world. How did that come to be? Like how did you get through it? Like, you mentioned toilet paper to me, so if you could expand on that.
Yeah, when the Rebbitzin in Moscow told me she has lettuce, I told her, I'm hanging up on you because I don't have lettuce. When people were coming from America, I said, can you please bring me an avocado and lettuce? Because we didn't have that. We had cucumbers, tomatoes in the summer. We were very lucky, but avocado was a whole, but we have everything today. You should all come visit. Money was scarce. We didn't have. We would write to the Rebbe saying that it's, Hanukkah. We have a whole deal with Hanukkah. It's an expense. We didn't say we don't have money. And then somehow somebody came to this Hanukkah program and said, I would like to give a donation of, I don't know, $500. We were like, wow. And then we had the money for for Purim. Then we would write the Rebbe about Purim, and then something else would happen. There was always something just miraculous happening. And there was never a time that we said, we're not doing something because we don't have the money. And then people started wanting to be part of the community. And then Lev Levayev started speaking about tzedakah, and the people that were making money after the 90s, 92, 95, he came to speak and he told them about tzedakah, and people started giving. Why should we have to go raise money from out of the country if people in the community can be part of it and give? And people come all the time. I mean, like this boy that called and said, I have $2,500. I want to give it to you. I'm like, are you sure? He says, yeah, because I was able to do something for my mother, and the Rebbe told me to give my money to you. And it doesn't matter. It's just about being part. I just want to say that we also have a Farbrengen, which is like a Shabbos meal for the elderly women. Since the war started, every week they sit for 2-3 hours. They have a meal as if it's Mashiach times. They say the 12 sukkim, which is 12 passages that the Rebbe spoke about. They say Tehillim, they say Psalms, they learn something, and they are thrilled. And they're from age 50 to 93. We have a woman that's 93. She comes to shul on Shabbos, knows nothing about Yiddishkeit, and just loves to be part of it. And they go around the table and thank God every single week for what happened during that week and what they are thankful for. And they come back the next week, and they love being, I don't know.
Wow, so much to learn from them. I'm very passionate about the 12 Sukkim since October 7th, because I learned that it's protection for adults and children. So it's incredible passages of the Torah, which I hope one day we'll have a class on that. Someone asked, can you tell us how many children are in your schools?
I don't know exactly, but many left. And my daughter was actually, my first daughter that went to school she was homeschooled. She had no children in her class until like 5th grade. And she had no frum children, religious girls in her class till seminary. My youngest daughter had 16 girls in her class, all girls. And by the war, she was 1 in her class when we came back. Now she has 9 girls in her class. It's just saying, there must be about 150 in the girls and the boys, maybe a little less, and a few hundred kids, and they're still learning online. We also had COVID and people were online, and there are children out of the country that want to be part of the Dnipro school, and they learn online, even though they can be learning in other countries.
Wow. Another question came in. When you say you wrote to the Rebbe, does it mean to the Ohel or to the Igros or something else? You had the merit to actually have a lot of correspondence with the Rebbe when he was here with us in a body form. Today, people correspond to the Rebbe, how they connect, and people get insane answers, me included. And it says when a tzaddik passes away, their body leaves, but their soul is still here and their energy is still here. And we feel it more than ever, because you see how much your community blossomed and flourished even after Gimel Tammuz. So if you can expand on that, and just expand at when you say write to the Rebbe, what that means.
First of all, many people in our community actually write letters to the Rebbe and receive answers as straightforward. Like the director of all our finances writes to the Rebbe and says, I'm leaving my job. And the Rebbe says, Camp Gan Yisrael is such an important thing that you can leave your job if you want, but Camp Gan Yisrael means children are in camp 24 hours of Judaism and kosher food, and you should not leave your job. This is someone not religious.
This is in the Igros, right? They write into the Igros.
They write either by they have an Igros. We have someone that translated all the Rebbe's Igros into Russian.
Wow.
And so people actually have them at home and they can write. Some do on apps, some not. Some write to the Ohel, some go to the Ohel. Some people, everyone has their way, and I do all different. And I write to the Igros. I should do more often, as I told you before.
Yeah, we were speaking about it, and I told you that I write to the Rebbe like pretty much all the time. It's like I'm writing an email. I write, send a letter, ohel.com. And you ask me how to get answers. I'm like, the Rebbe sends me answers in different forms. Sometimes it's a video, sometimes it's through a person, sometimes it's a message. Sometimes I just click on the gem and I just see my address on there, the number 741, and I'm like, what does this mean? And then I see on the actual screen, it's saying 9744, and that's the address that I grew up in. So I know the Rebbe was talking directly to me with it was so evident. It's just unreal. And I want to share that gift with all of you because I feel that we have a gift. And, I met an Uber driver once and he told me that every time he goes to the Ohel, he's a black Uber driver, an incredible man. And he said, every time he goes to the Rebbe, and I'm like, how did you get there? He like showed me a picture of the Rebbe. He pulled it out. And I'm like, that's my rabbi. And he goes, our rabbi. And I was like, who is this guy? He gets answers. And now we're seeing how, congressmen and the president went to the OHEL, and, someone in the NBA went and they won, the team won. And the Rebbe answers everyone. It's for Jews and non-Jews alike. So why not tap into this gift that we have, that we can go to a tzaddik to have him ask on the behalf of our selves to Hashem. It's like literally an ambassador to God. And like I have ambassadors for the class, like the Rebbe is Hashem's ambassador, and he gives over the message and he's able to correspond in crazy ways. So anyone that I sent to the OHEL really got answers. So I'm just, okay, continue. I want to hear more stories, OHEL stories from your ladies. Your phone is charging. You can unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Awesome.
There was a couple here. I mean, there's a couple. They were very far from Yiddishkeit. My husband found them as a translator, actually. And he heard that there's this Rebbe that you write to. So he wrote to the Rebbe and a letter in the Igris to the Rebbe. And there was no emails or anything like that at that time. Or maybe there was email, but there was no. Trying to remember what there was then 35 years ago. Email, probably. And the Rebbe told him that his wife is pregnant. He came home and his wife almost shot him. She says, I'm not pregnant. I am not. They had a child. She had a very difficult pregnancy and they were not planning to have any more kids. And she went to the doctor and sure enough, she was pregnant. And she did not believe it and he did not believe it. And they had a baby boy. And then he wrote again and he wrote to the Rebbe, I don't know what to name this child. And the Rebbe answered him, even though your parents and family will be against, name this child Menachem Mendel. I remember this verse like today. We were there. We were freaking out, my husband and I, because who in their right mind is naming their child Menachem Mendel? They have a Misha and a Grisha and a not Menachem Mendel. And at the bris, this is what he said. He said, I got an answer from the Rebbe and my child's name is Menachem Mendel. And they said, what are you going to put in his passport? He says, Menachem Mendel. And this young child at 2 years old tells his parents, all Jews go to synagogue. You need to take me to synagogue. And he walked an hour every Shabbos to shul. And this is how he grew up. And then he went to yeshiva and now he's in Vienna. And their older daughter, actually, this is a really amazing, beautiful thing. There are two of our families that have lived in Dnipro and slowly became frum that are on shlichus on campus in America. One is in Allentown and one is she just moved to Richmond. This is this family. His older sister moved to Richmond, Virginia. Is that not like something very special for the Rebbe's crowd?
It's incredible. We have someone on here. You could unmute yourself if you would like to. Marina, she wrote in the chat box, I'm from her community, Dnipro. I can't say it for me if you don't mind.
Dnipropetrovsk.
You just say it so good. And because of Chany, I have a Jewish life now in Philadelphia. So if you want to just unmute yourself for one moment, Marina, and just say hi to everyone. I'm gonna press unmute for you because it's not unmuting. Hold on one second. I just want everyone to see she's new on the class. So welcome, Marina. I pressed, you have to click on the button to unmute.
Hi everybody. I'm not so talented like Chany because her Russian is so good. I'm not so good. We are very good friends, and I'm so proud. I think my story is very long, but just I want to say two words. We have huge Jewish community in Dnipropetrovsk, and our rabbi, Chany's husband, he's very good, very smart. But I think because of Chany, because we have so many women in our community, and you know that how women are thinking, it like women can send kids, women can say man what men supposed to do, right? And I think because of Chany, we have so, she wouldn't tell it, but I will tell you, we have so big community and so close to each other that thank you, Chany, thank you. I have opportunity to say it in front of everybody. I was I wasn't prepared to talk because our story is very long. It's like we can talk, but thank you.
Marina, thank you so much. I hope one day you'll want to share your story on our class. I'm going to speak to Chany. She'll connect us, and I hope you come on back. This wasn't part of the program, but you posted a comment, so I asked you to unmute yourself. So thank you so much. And behind every successful man, don't forget there's an amazing woman behind. And Chany, you're incredible. Like I literally met you in Israel. We're staying in the same Airbnb, and after you were so friendly, we met after a few months. I think it was a few months back or a year back. And when I called you and your sisters are your best like cheerleaders. I'm friends with both of them, and they both told me some things to ask you and to share. And your mom, is your mom on? If she is, unmute yourself. Also, we want to say hi to you if you're on tonight, but your mom is a very big part of this class. She tunes in weekly, and she really has incredible daughters and son. I don't know if she's on, but if she is, she'll unmute herself and show her screen. But thank you for bringing Chany into the world. Chany has the name of Chana, and she really brings nachas like Rebbetzin Chaya Mushka. When I asked her to speak, I had no idea she had all this incredible history of connection. Rebbetzin Chaya Mushka, the Rebbe's wife, didn't have visitors coming to her house. Just saying, it wasn't common. Most people didn't know who the Rebbetzin was. They knew about her, but they never, if she walked in the street, people wouldn't know who she was, except the very, very few. So the fact that you had all those correspondents in the beginning, thank you for sharing that. And also, it's incredible how the Rebbetzin was so sensitive to you about your plant. And she said to you, you didn't like school. And so many people could relate to that. I hear that so many girls don't love school. Who does? I didn't love school. And she gave you the bracha that one day you're gonna bring a lot of nachas and you're gonna be a real chassid, and that's what you are. And it's amazing you taught yourself. Like, I want you to tell us how you taught yourself Russian. Like, are you good with languages? Because you didn't know anything. I mean, we could probably do a series of classes with your community, and it's incredible. So if you could just tell us how you learned Russian, maybe say a few words in Russian, and you could translate.
I don't know if people understand Russian.
My grandmother was from Moscow, and she was very proud. You mentioned Moscow, and she said I was from Moscow. It was very aristocratic place.
Yes, I
So
speak Russian, and I am very lucky. They sure gave me a knack for languages, so I actually speak quite well, even though my children say that I do have an accent, and they all don't. They all speak Hebrew, English, Russian, Ukrainian, and some do Yiddish too. What do you want me to say, по-русски? До свидания.
which means
Goodbye.
no, don't say goodbye yet. Hasidim never say goodbye. Could you say that in Russian? Hasidim never
No,
say.
actually, до свидания is till the next time we meet. До встречи. Я очень рада вас видеть, и спасибо большое, что я могла с вами говорить сегодня. Thank you
It
for
sounds, it
allowing.
sounds, it sounds very beautiful. One more question, if that's okay. How did you give birth in Russia? We discussed it earlier. I don't know if we mentioned it. Like, how did that happen with, you said the toilets were in the ground, like literally, like, so how does an American
Well,
girl, who,
good question. We need to leave some questions for next time.
no, let's answer it this time and then we'll have a next time, maybe with your husband together.
It was a decision, but when you have 7 children at home, my 7th was born in Israel, 6 of them were born in America, and my 8th and 9th were born in Ukraine. My 8th was actually a C-section, and then you think, are you out of your mind? Like, why should you have a baby again in Ukraine? And my daughter was born, be back, and I'm very happy about that. The Eibishter is with you, and it doesn't matter. I mean, it is important to have very good medicine, but people can have births in America and have issues, and people can have, give birth at home and not have issues. So we know that, and that's a whole different, aspect, different topic in itself. And I'm very happy that I did that because it was really hard to travel with all the children out of the country to give birth to that baby. My Israeli experience was really difficult. So I was happier in the Ukraine.
So Chany, that means you're coming back on because you said for next time. So we're going to discuss after the class. We're going to have a sequel to this class. Maybe we could have some people from your community share. I'm so humbled and honored that you came on. You said you're not a speaker, but you are a speaker now. And you're such an ambassador of the Rebbe, and you're making him so proud, and the Rebbitzin proud, and Rebbe Chana proud, and Rebbe Levick proud. And it's so beautiful to hear those amazing encounters that you have, and that you feel the blessings till today, and that you pay it forward. And you're just such a light. You went through literally everything: war, communism, Iron Curtain. I mean, you've been through it all. Not having money, food on your table. I mean, you had food, but like scarce. I mean, who buries potatoes for food? I mean, think about it, guys. Like, that's like what squirrels do. Like in the fall, they, the things fall, they bury it. Like that, it's not really so normal. Like, we have everything at our fingertips. We just go to the store. Some of it's open 24 hours. So yes, we are very, very spoiled, someone wrote. And we're so blessed. But I think you see the fruits to your labor. Now I'm going to ask Mrs. Lipsker, if you can please unmute yourself and show your screen for one moment, if that's okay. Welcome to Mrs. Lipsker.
I can't get onto the screen, so it'll have to be just like this. I'm
This is
really
perfect.
so
This is
not high tech.
perfect.
I just want to say that when Chany, Rabbi Shmuel's oldest child, was being brought back to Dnipro at that time. So what you saw in the video, I think that's the day that we were leaving back. It was a longish kind of a trip, I must say, for an American, right? So it was my first trip. Frankfurt, Moscow, changed airports. My suitcase was busted open, so I had to have it I put in a claim, whatever. And then we took another plane back to Dnipro, and we were taxied to what was described to me as a palace. Well, I put one foot over the door. I went in first. I tried to go in first, and Chany was with the baby, was in back of me. And I turned around and I said, Chany, I'm going home. And she turned me back around and she said, oh, no, you're not. It was, for me, it was a very harrowing experience. Well, I won't go into any of the physical details because there's a lot of them, but I was there for over a month. And on the way back, I went by train from Dnipro to Moscow. And from Moscow, I had a direct flight back home at that time. And I kept a little diary of little things that happened. And I started to write my report to the Rebbe on the plane. When we got back, somehow I was in Crown Heights and I was not finished with my report to the Rebbe, but I went to Rabbi Groner at least to give over an oral report. He asked, "You don't have anything written?" I said, I'm in the middle of writing. As soon as I finish, I will get it to the Rebbe, but at least it's a Lebetika, a real life regards. Things are very happening in the city. They have a functioning mikvah, and it's just a very good regards. I think like 2 or 3 days later, I finished writing my report to the Rebbe, and I handed it in. I wasn't really expecting an answer. And we were already in Morristown. We were living in Morristown. We were already back home in Morristown. And I get a call from the Rebbe's office. It was Rabbi Groner. And he said, "I want you to copy down these words." The main part of the answer was, Rabbi Groner said, "This is a very
Rare.
not usual answer, nadir. It's a very, he hasn't seen this answer." And the Rebbe's words were, "Kamayim karim al nefesh ayefa," like fresh, cool waters on a parched soul. That was a very, very, very special answer from the Rebbe. And I described all the physical things that were happening and all the spiritual things that I saw also that were happening. And that's the answer that I got. So that was something extremely, extremely special, that answer from the Rebbe. And the Eibster should help. They should continue bringing light and we should all herald in the arrival of Mashiach.
Amen. Thank you for sharing, Mrs. Lipsker. And you're so proud of all your children. And I feel very lucky to know you. Every time I see you, you just make light in my, like you light up my day. You're really just an incredible, kind, awesome human. So I'm proud to know you. And I'm proud that you're part of this class because you really like it. And I hope one day you will tune in to be a guest speaker. We're going to try to make it happen. Your girls are always telling me, get my mom. And one day we'll get you. So I hope you will agree to it. Not putting you on the spot, but thank you for sharing your words. I want to say thank you to Chany for being so gracious and being such an incredible, Shlucha of the world today, because that's what you are, sharing your incredible encounters with the Rebbe and his light and his message, and you're continuing to do that, and you live it and you spread it, and we should all merit to be able to see the Rebbe again with the coming of Mashiach and have Mashiach, because that's what we really, really need, and have all the hostages home and just all unite, because when Mashiach comes, our places are gonna all turn into like one place, like Israel. That's what they say. You're gonna keep your homes, but it's gonna be one big happy family. We're gonna all live near each other. Can't wait. It's gonna be really fun. We're gonna have these meetings in person because we're not gonna have Russia. We're not gonna have Philly. We're not gonna have all the places. I'm gonna do a quick roll call, which we do weekly. Before we do that, I just want to say, if you didn't, you could just write where you're from in the chat box. I want to say thank you, Zakar Sataiv, to the Rebbe. I want to first say thank you to Hashem and the Rebbe for giving me this opportunity. The Rebbe is my partner in this class. If you want to know how it's still functioning on Zoom and we still have people coming on weekly, the Rebbe literally sends me inspiration every week what to do. You know, when you have a thought that comes into your mind, it comes from above, from Hashem and the Rebbe. I want to thank my incredible and someone that I really value and look up to, Chany Jacobson, my mashpia and mentor for this class, who adds so much. I want to say thank you to all the ambassadors of this class. Now, to become an ambassador is so easy, and it's also a merit because I share my merits with you. And who doesn't want my merits of this class? Because it brings out, like when you bring Torah into the world, it's the best thing, the best nachas, the best joy you can give Hashem. So if you want to become an ambassador and share this with your communities or your friends or your chats, it's so easy. You click a button, you just press share, and poof, light goes out into the world. So message me if you would like to become an ambassador today. Thank you for everyone that tunes in weekly. I want to say thank you to my dear husband, who really helps me with this class and really supports my passions, because it takes up a lot of my time and probably a lot of his. I literally sleep with a calendar, and I fill in who I think, and I cross it out and try to bring the most incredible, I would say, footage and inspiring stories. And it's incredible. It's almost 4 years. We're going to be celebrating a 4-year anniversary this year. I will, please God, bring with all of you. And I want to say just thank you to everyone for tuning in, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's Chaya Mink, CHAYAMINK. We do these class live weekly. So if you got this class from someone, reach out to them how to get on live every week. Send me a message. I'll add you onto the broadcast. We also have a Shar B'tachon class under this class. So please check it out. It's awesome. It's under our YouTube channel as well. And we have a WhatsApp chat for that. And we post classes weekly with Devorah, Leah, and Druzier. Okay, so here goes for the roll call. We're doing the roll call in memory of Rabbi Moshe Kolarski. He brought these roll calls. This is where I got the idea at the Kinnos, the women's Shluchim convention, and the men's had a convention separate, where they came in from all around the world. Thousands and thousands of emissaries of the Rebbe got together, and he would call out all their names, and then all the women got together and would dance. And then when it was the men's convention, they all danced. It's the most amazing event in the whole wide world to see how the Rebbe's vision came into fruition. And his memory is alive because, you know, it's still going. Everything is happening on a higher level, so many more programs. I mean, there's so many visitors that come to Crown Heights. We're having C-Teen soon, YJP, Young Jewish Professionals, the Shluchim Convention, the Shluchas Convention. I mean, and I have to give a shout out to Crown Heights for their incredible Hachnasas Archim, where they welcome the guest. And literally, it's all year round. There's stuff going on all year round. First, it's Tishrei, which is the people from all around the world, and they almost take over the place, and thousands of people come into the community. It's incredible, the energy on Tishrei in Crown Heights. Then there's C-Teen and YJP and college campuses, and it's just unbelievable. A lot of these events came about under Rabbi Kolarski, which is under the Rebbe. So he passed away this year. We're honoring his memory. He was a very special man and a true leader of the Jewish people of the world. And we're going to keep his legacy alive till Mashiach. So tonight we have with us Palm Springs, California, Baltimore, Brooklyn Heights, Crown Heights, Melbourne, Australia, Glendale, California. We have Morristown, New Jersey. We have California, Cherry Hill, New Jersey, Florida, Philadelphia, and I'm sure many more places. This was an honor, and I'm humbled that I get this opportunity, and it was so special. Thank you, Chany. Thank you, Shany. Thank you, everyone, for this class. And Chany, you should be blessed to have extraordinary at Lecha. That's from Shany. And Shany, thank you for this idea. And may we just merit Mashiach. He's coming. We're seeing it unfold in front of us, and the hostages should come home. Don't stop praying. Don't stop davening. Don't stop doing. Don't stop bringing light into the world. We all have a purpose, like we shared in the beginning, whatever it is. If it's a lawyer, if it's a secretary, if it's working in a school, if it's anything, all your professions that you have, add to the world, add light, and we need all of you. And we need all of you to spread more light into the world, and we need all of you to connect to Hashem in the way that you could. So together we could bring Mashiach. And it says when all the Jewish souls get together and keep Shabbat, Mashiach will come. So we really have to go out there and encourage your friends to light Shabbat candles, It will bring them mazel. It will bring you mazel. Mikvah really is a time that you can pray to God and ask him for whatever you want. When you light Shabbat candles, it's a direct phone call with God. So tap into these amazing things. Tehillim, you change the world. And everyone that needs a refuah shalema, it should happen immediately. We include you in the classes. So if I didn't mention your loved ones, just know we had them in mind. And thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll see you next week. This was over the top. And never forget to enjoy your journey of life, because whatever is meant for you, that's where you're meant to be. So don't try to change your journey. Just embrace your journey. Thanks.